Excuse me, sir. Are you a member?
No, I'm looking for Mr. James Bond.
What name should I say, sir?
Just give him my card, will you?
Would you like to leave your coat over there, sir?
$200 à la banque.
Oh.
Suivi.
Suivi.
Carte.
Carte. 7 à la banque. 200 livres à la banque.
Suivi.
Banque au suivi.
Carte.
Carte. 8 à la banque.
Suivi.
C'est suivi.
The house will cover the difference.
Bien, madame. Oui, monsieur. Changeur, s'il vous plaît.
Carte.
Carte. 9 à la banque.
I need another 1,000.
I admire your courage, Miss,
Trench. Sylvia Trench. I admire your luck, Mr.
Bond. James Bond.
Welcome to show number 10, a show about everything. My name is John Deecken, and we're coming to you live from downtown Bridgeport like we do every few weeks. And we have a great show for you today. We just saw a clip from Dr. No, in 1963. And I just realized if you get a chance to replay that, you can go to our YouTube channel and do that to your heart's content. The first line that James says there clearly was done by another person when he, you'll know what I mean if you replay it. Anyway, he obviously says Bond, James Bond, but the prior line was not his voice, but it was supposed to be because they were talking. That's just some of the trivia we like to offer up. Now, regarding ancient trivia, which may be inconsequential to some of you, others may find this fascinating. This is a little bit of information regarding the days of the week and why they are that way. I put this together the other night based on a little bit of research. This is about the Chaldean order of planets, Chaldea being ancient Babylon. Let's take it away.
We're looking at a seven-pointed shape known as a heptagon. And at each vertex, we're going to put a planetary body. It's the moon. And we're going to put them in order of their relative velocity based upon the view from Earth. It's Mercury, Venus, the Sun, Mars, Jupiter, and Saturn. Interestingly, Saturn covers 13 degrees of sky per year. The moon covers 13 degrees of sky per day. And the rest of the guys are distributed according to their velocity. Now, what's interesting here is that when we connect them with a septagon on the interior, we get the days of the week from Monday, the moon, to Mars at Tuesday, Mardi. Then from there, we go Mercredi, which is Wednesday, Mercury. Then we go to Jeudi, Jupiter, Thursday, day of Thor. From there, we come back over to Venus for Vendredi, Friday, to Saturn, Saturday, and then to Sunday, Dimanche. And of course back to Monday, the moon's day. Just in case you were wondering.
Now, if we were able to teach that to kids, say in first grade, it might be easy for them because they're combining some geometry and a little bit of science. But the problem would be to hold their attentions. Now, the human mind certainly could handle that stuff at a young age. And clearly it was taught maybe 5,000 years ago, to at least some of the select intelligent people that were worthy of such critical knowledge. And for some reason, we carry on with this 7-day week. And if you ask someone at work tomorrow why it's 7 days or anything like that, I bet you no one's going to have any idea. I'd be very surprised if someone says, well, it's the 7 heavenly bodies of the ancient world, or something like that. Of course, that's just scratching the surface of that whole deal of sacred geometry and ancient knowledge. We've got one more little tidbit here. I did a little crash course on Egyptian multiplication, which only uses doubling and addition. So you don't have to multiply any other number, but you can go.
Not use Arabic letters. They used segments of the Eye of Horus symbol. And we're not going to do that. We're going to just use the Arabic numbers. But I want to show you how apparently they did this binary notation. They would set up a table, and we're going to say, let's multiply just 2 numbers, 2 digits by 2 digits, like 24 times 38. We're going to try to calculate that in a way that we're going to do 24 times 38. Before we do it the traditional way, let's just show you how the Egyptians would do it. Take the high number, put it in the one spot, and just double it. Okay? 76, 152, 304, 608, 1216, and I think that's all. It's as far as we need to go. We did that with 38. Now, to get the 24 involved, we're just going to add the corresponding units here. We're going to pull out a 16, and we're going to add an 8 to it. Because 16 plus 8 equals 24. Therefore, we add these 2 factors, and we get 9, 12, without even doing anything other than doubling and adding, which are the easiest things we can do. Let's verify it by going up here the traditional way. 32, 16, 19, 12, carry to 1, 6, 7, 8, 9, 1, 2. All right. I think the Egyptians might be easier. Anyway, it's more intuitive, and it's actually more similar to modern computer thinking. Just thought you'd like to know.
I wonder if one of my teachers tried to show me that years ago, back in the 60s. I had some hip teachers back then, but I think it was an alternative. It wasn't quite that version. There's other ways to do math, but let's, before we get to our night vision of the week, I just want to say that a lot of people have been getting these so-called UFOs in their night vision equipment, and clearly it's a mystery, an enigma, and certainly is not explainable by any natural means. And I just want to share with you some of my new ones. Excuse the low resolution, but at least these I can guarantee you are real because I saw them in real time. And let's check out this first one. This one, again, I stabilized. I have a little music for you. See, it kind of jumps, lurches halfway through, lurches, and then descends. This is going across a huge part of the sky. You know, it looks like a donut. Maybe it's a little out of focus, but I don't know what the heck that thing is. And I followed it for a very long time, about 2 solid minutes. This is just a short sequence where it made this nice little turn, passed in front of a few stars. And it was just amazing. This one here, this is a slow-moving one, and it's that one on the right, the object on the far right, that's moving very slowly. And I picked this up, watched it for 2 minutes, and almost came to a standstill at some point, but you could see it just crawling by. It's kind of an arcing path, certainly not a satellite. Now it's arcing more towards a horizontal path, still moving up again. And I see these things, the speed of them changes. the trajectories change, and they cover the entire sky. Once you catch one in your viewer, you can keep up with them, and they will go right off the edge of the sky. It's pretty amazing. And this guy just keeps cruising. Now he's coming downward. Very hard to keep that camera stable. I'm going to have to work on some type of gyroscopic system. But just amazing when you catch one and follow it. You feel a little bit transported to a possible twilight zone. But then you realize you can get these every night. This is common. This is normal. So I think people are in the twilight zone are the ones who don't have a clue about this stuff. The next guy, next clip, number 3-2, you'll see him jump in from the left here in a moment. I have a dead pixel in the center. Ignore that, please. But the guy's going to jump in here from the left. Look at him go. And I try to catch him. Almost lost him. Big round disc. He is cruising. Now he's trying to escape me. Look at him. Get back here. Covering a huge amount of sky, changing direction. Clearly not happy being filmed. And I take him over the top of that building. So, again, this is just my little hobby. It's fun for me to do. I don't fish, as I say, and I don't play tennis or golf. So, in between martial arts and the various musical instruments that I practice, I gotta have some exploratory excitement. So, that is that for this week. Now, so you don't have to hear me talking for the entire time, which has been known to throw at least women into convulsions on occasion, good convulsions. We're going to go to a special on DMT. This is a molecule called dimethyltryptamine. It's also a class 1 chemical, but it's excreted by your pineal gland, and it exists in almost every creature and every plant in the world, and is instrumental in visual thinking, dreaming, and exploring the lucid state and beyond. We're talking about a world beyond, and we've talked about this before on the show briefly, but this is a very good special that I found on YouTube. We're going to share part of it with you. It's a 15-minute chunk, and hopefully we won't lose you people, but we have a lot of different stuff coming up. All of it's kind of on the heavy side and very, I don't want to say intellectual, but I'll say spiritual. Okay, this is part 1. Let it rip.
I saw the city in the deep, deep distance that was dark green and all these lights flickering and clouds flowing over it. And this all started after tremendous geometric patterns that are incredibly rapid that you cannot describe to anybody. They're so fast. After those had slowed down, I saw this city in the deep distance. So I was sort of watching that, and then this ball of light goes right past me, right in front of me, like, what was that? It didn't scare me, except it was so close. After that, I started looking around. It's like you're in this place, and you're going, why am I in this place? And then I noticed that there was this woman off to my right with a real long nose. She had green skin. She was turning this dial, and I realized she was turning the volume of lights up and down on the city in the distance. And as soon as I looked at her, she noticed I was watching her. And she said, so what else do you want? I said, what else do you have?
This is the story of DMT, or dimethyltryptamine, a simple compound found throughout nature which has profound effects on human consciousness.
One of the things, besides what it does, one of the things about DMT that always fascinated me was the fact that it's such a simple molecule.
DMT stands for dimethyltryptamine, N-dimethyltryptamine. If you actually look at the ring structure of DMT itself, you only have really 4 positions that you can attach things to. So you can make diethyl or dipropyl. There are some other types of carbon chains you can attach to that end that do give you compounds that have activity, but very different from DMT.
It biosynthetically, it's 2 steps from tryptophan, right? 2 trivial enzymatic steps from tryptophan. Well, tryptophan is an amino acid, of course, and it's everywhere. So all organisms have tryptophan, and all organisms have the 2 key enzymes that lead to the synthesis of DMT. And these enzymes are very ancient enzymes. They're all over the place. They're, again, part of basic metabolism. So theoretically, anything could synthesize DMT.
DMT is astonishingly widely available in plants and animals all around the world, but so far nobody really knows why it's there or what its function is.
That's the $64 billion question, is why is DMT in our bodies? Why is it in plants, in all sorts of mammals? And what is the role it plays in humans?
The conventional wisdom 30, 40 years ago was that these things had no real function. They were just sort of physiological noise, but that's a very naive understanding. And what we now understand is that these secondary compounds are, in a sense, the language of plants. These are messenger molecules. This is what plants use to mediate their relationships with other organisms in the environment.
Why is it that human beings' central nervous system are wired to receive this experience? Must be that, there's important information to be learned.
So I don't think it's universally present in nature by accident. It has a real function. We have co-evolved with these plants. There's a purpose and a meaning to it.
So it really fits in with the notion that DMT may be the common molecular language, resonant language, among all living beings on this planet and maybe others as well. I can't think of a more powerful tool to explore the whole question of what is consciousness.
These substances are tools that can be used to expand awareness in all areas of life and apply that expanded awareness for the betterment of people's lives and their communities, their families, and our society.
The good news is that there's a growing number of Westerners and actually intellectuals, scientists, artists, movers and shakers, filmmakers, and so on, who realize that this stuff is all too interesting just to go on keeping it swept under the rug. And meanwhile, the Inquisition was a long time ago. The birth of rationalism was a long time ago. At this point, there's no good reason, apart from bad habit, to keep up these barriers.
With the help of 2 concepts that are traditionally opposed, science and spirituality, we humbly reintroduce psychedelics back into the cultural dialogue.
DMT, the spirit molecule, it's a conundrum, it's a paradox. What the spirit is the inner world. The molecule is the external world. So the psychedelics or entheogens take us from the science to the spirit.
I was drawn to the pineal gland, which is a very small organ in the center of the brain, which has always been an object of interest and even veneration for a lot of esoteric physiological disciplines. I thought, it wasn't totally crazy to presume a pineal site of origin of DMT. Which, fit in nicely with my theory that the pineal was somehow involved in naturally occurring mystical states.
This hypothesis proposes that the pineal gland at certain times, when it's under a specific stress or stimulation, it releases a significant amount of this hormone, DMT, and it's that hormone that facilitates the entering and exiting
of the soul in the body. This is what the Jewish sage mystics have been describing in a coded language for literally thousands of years.
Through meditation, through fasting, chanting, any number of techniques, there might be a burst of endogenous DMT that was correlated with mystical and near-death experiences. And I had this theory that there is a big similarity between psychedelics and experiences that were possible with a lot of meditation. And that was one of the original findings that led me to start looking for a spirit molecule, for a compound in the brain that elicited mystical experience.
I think there may be a role for DMT in explaining any number of hallucinatory phenomena that man has experienced throughout his history. Creativity, imagination, dream states, changes that occur due to isolation, trauma, starvation, all of which produce hallucinatory phenomena. These hallucinatory phenomena are explainable by the presence of compounds known to produce hallucinations. And the only compounds that we know of that are capable of doing this are the class of compounds known as hallucinogens.
When thinking about spiritual states, I think endogenous hallucinogenic compounds and molecules that the brain can potentially release are probably very relevant to this topic, because on one hand, they may really help us to elucidate what is the neurochemical mechanism of these experiences. I mean, if we can say that there's a release of endogenous opiates, or we can say that there's a release of dopamine or something like that, and we can measure that release, and we can see where in the brain those different molecules go, what receptors they activate or deactivate, and hence we can really learn a lot more about what these experiences are, because it really can allow us to match up these experiences that people have with hallucinogens, as well as understanding where they are related in the context of the brain's receptors and the different parts of the brain that may or may not become active.
One of the other interesting things about the pharmacology of DMT is that it's actively transported into the brain. And so you have to wonder about the role of DMT in just everyday normal perceptual, activity. Too much DMT and things become very psychedelic, or, not enough, DMT in the brain can make things dull and flat and gray.
There's something that, for me, makes sense about DMT. You called it the spirit molecule. It might almost be called, the reality molecule. Philosophically, it makes sense that something that would be so fundamental to the way we perceive reality would be imbued out there in reality.
There was a sense around it that there was something special, that it wasn't like anything else. There wasn't like other psychedelics. Its intensity and speed was such that it really produced a different kind of response. I mean, I remember almost getting the sense that it was kind of like a psychedelic bungee jump, that there was a kind of raw leap into this rapidly changing environment that was very different than the more gradual approaches of other psychedelics.
And smoke DMT is sort of like the drive-by shooting of psychedelics. You're in one place, bang, you're in another place, and then bang, you're back down. So it doesn't leave a whole lot of room for that narrative of who am I, what am I doing here, why am I in this space, what am I learning? It's almost like there was too much information to process in that few minute span to integrate once you drop back down.
Dimethyltryptamine, when it is administered, has a very rapid onset and a very short duration of action. This is because it's very rapidly broken down by the body so that it can be cleared.
DMT is rapidly degraded by an enzyme in the liver called monoamine oxidase, or MAO. That's the reason it's not active when you take it by mouth. Whereas psilocybin, when you take it by mouth, it's not broken down by monoamine oxidase very quickly at all. So it gets through the liver and passes on into the bloodstream and into the brain.
Yeah, I'm very interested in ayahuasca. When I began my studies in the early 1990s, ayahuasca was just starting to make inroads into the West, but it's obviously become a lot more popular in the last 10, 15 years. And the visionary ingredient in ayahuasca is DMT. Through some amazing feat of pre-literate chemistry, the Amazonian natives stumbled upon or combined whatever. I don't know how they did it, but they found that one plant contains DMT and one plant contains an enzyme inhibitor. Combine them, you can drink DMT and it's orally active. So it starts working in a half hour, lasts for 3 or 4 hours. And you can, maneuver a lot more comfortably within that state than you can when you're just smoking it or injecting it.
Orally active ayahuasca tends to pick you up and gently carry you into the space and hug you and embrace you and clean you and show you all sorts of mystical visions, and then it very gently brings you back down like you're floating on a feather back to the ground.
As valuable as my DMT experiences have been, I feel that there's a lot more enduring value, really, in this folk technology, which stretches it out and makes it a navigable space. Our whole Western, European-derived tradition of distilling alcohols and isolating chemicals and making everything stronger and taking it out of nature and putting it into the biggest punch that we can, I don't think that generally that's the most useful way. I think there's a reason that cultures have learned to turn a 5-minute experience into a 5-hour experience. It seems to me that ayahuasca has had a plan and that it's reached out into the world and brought DMT into many, many thousands of lives in a much bigger canvas than it had reached for the last 10,000 or however many years. And it's done it very rapidly, and it's done it with form to go with it.
And ayahuasca is much harder for the power structures that we have.
Okay, that's just part one, and we're going to show you part two later in the show. First, let's give you a quick taste. Again, we played this a few times, a digital replication of the DMT experience at the Fractal.
The sky was blue and icy, and all around there was no sound. It was all so nice to be free from the city. I left behind a thing called time. It used to be that it
Now, on the replay on our YouTube channel, you can try that last clip with some red and blue 3D glasses. I recommend it. It adds a bit of dimension